You ever have one of those moments when the universe hands you exactly what you need, and it's not at all what you expected? Well, that's how it all started for me with a shed. Yeah, I said it, a shed. I wasn't looking to start a war. But my neighbor, Caleb Mercer, had a different idea about property lines, and when he called the city on me, he had no idea that the real trouble was about to land squarely in his backyard. So here I am, standing on my porch, reading this bright orange notice taped to my door. City of Brook Hollow Code Enforcement complaint received regarding unpermitted accessory structure constructed within restricted setback area. I stood there just staring at it. My mind raced, but the thing that hit me first? Irritation. This wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated move on Caleb's part. I knew exactly who filed it. There were only 2 houses sharing that rear property line, and Mrs. Donnelly wasn't exactly filing complaints from beyond the grave. I didn't move to Brook Hollow for drama. It's one of those quiet little suburbs just outside Columbus. Kids still ride bikes. People argue about lawn fertilizer like it's a moral issue. When my wife Hannah and I bought the place, it was a modest 2-story colonial, with a big backyard and an old maple tree leaning slightly to the left like it had something to say about the world. Nothing extravagant, just a place to settle down, start a family. Then came the shed. Nothing fancy, just a 12 by 10-foot structure, the same soft gray as the house, tucked against the rear fence, lined up clean with the lot lines. I built it over weekends, sweating through Ohio humidity, measuring twice. Okay, maybe 3 times. Because I'm that guy. I pulled permits, submitted the drawings, scheduled inspections. The city inspector came, signed off, and I even kept a folder in my desk labeled backyard structure, like I was running a small construction firm out of my home office. Everything was perfect. 3 years went by. Nobody cared. Nobody complained. That's when Caleb moved in. He bought Mrs. Donnelly's house, and right off the bat, I did what any decent neighbor would do. I helped him carry a sofa inside. He had that polished energy, the kind of guy who irons his jeans and talks about market corrections at backyard barbecues. Early 40s, commercial real estate, drives a black SUV that's always waxed and always says the right thing. You'd think it was all business, but that first conversation, when he asked about my property line and the shed, well, that should have been my warning. 2 weeks later, the question started. How close is that shed to the fence? He asked. I told him, it complies with the setbacks. 3 feet from the back, 5 from the side. I even showed him the approval email on my phone. He nodded, smiled thinly, and said, good. Rules are there for a reason. But something about the way he said it didn't sit right. It felt like an audit, not a conversation. Over the next month, little comments trickled in. He started talking about property values, uniformity, maintaining standards. Then one Tuesday, I came home from work and found that orange envelope taped to my door. The complaint. The one Caleb filed. I stood there on the porch, reading it again and again, feeling the irritation grow inside me. Hannah saw my face through the window. What's wrong? She asked. I handed her the notice. She scanned it, looked up at me, and said, this is about the shed? I nodded. You pulled permits, right? She asked, sounding unsure. I know, I said. I just don't get it. I wasn't panicking, though. Not because I wasn't angry. But there was something more calculated about this. Caleb wasn't just some guy trying to push me around. This was a man who thought he could control his environment with the flick of a pen. So, I didn't confront him. Instead, I went upstairs and pulled out my folder. Original application, approved site plan, inspection sign-off sheet, even photos I'd taken during construction with timestamps. I organized it all like I was preparing for a deposition. If Caleb wanted to play, I was going to play it quietly, strategically. The inspection was scheduled for Friday morning, so I took the day off work, not because I was worried, but because I wanted to be there, prepared. When the city truck pulled up, I greeted the inspector before she even rang the bell. Her name was Denise Alvarez. She was practical, boots on the ground, clipboard tucked under her arm. Nothing fazed her. We walked to the backyard, where everything checked out. She measured, compared the plans, everything was perfect. But then she paused. She looked past my shed, over the fence, into Caleb's yard, and her expression changed. Something wasn't right. Was that patio always that size? She asked. No, I said. It was expanded this spring. She nodded, taking a closer look at the tall wooden privacy screen near the back fence. Do you know if that was permitted? I shrugged. I'm not sure. Denise walked toward the gate that separated our yards, opened it, and asked if she could verify something next door. I stepped through with her, and suddenly, I realized Caleb wasn't in control of the situation anymore. Denise introduced herself to Caleb. He was acting casual, like he had everything in hand. "Everything good?" he asked, playing innocent. But Denise didn't care about his act. She started measuring his patio, checking the privacy screen, tapping at her tablet. And that's when the real twist hit. Turns out, Caleb had expanded his patio, right into the required rear setback. And that privacy screen? It exceeded the height limit for accessory structures. The structure that Caleb thought was bulletproof was suddenly in violation of codes. He started laughing, trying to brush it off. "My contractor handled everything," he said. But Denise wasn't having it. She calmly informed him that the footings for his patio were set within a utility easement. He'd violated codes, and now he was going to have to deal with it. I stood there quietly, hands in my pockets, watching Caleb's cool demeanor crack. His face turned pale as Denise explained the violation. "You'll have to either obtain retroactive permits or modify the patio," she said. Failure to comply could result in daily fines. There it was, the moment Caleb realized he had crossed the line. The system didn't care who he was or what he thought he could get away with. It was just process. The inspection ended, but Caleb's ordeal wasn't over. Over the next few days, I saw him getting a certified letter, the kind that everyone dreads. A couple of days later, contractors showed up to tear down his privacy screen, jackhammer his patio. It wasn't just concrete that was breaking, it was Caleb's little illusion of control. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just watched. Caleb stood by his window, arms crossed, watching his expensive patio shatter into pieces. It wasn't revenge, it was just the consequences unfolding. And I had nothing to do with it. In the weeks that followed, Caleb and I didn't talk. We exchanged stiff nods when we saw each other. Eventually, one evening, while I was raking leaves, he came over and asked if I had a minute. "I shouldn't have filed that complaint," he said. And for the first time, I saw a crack in his polished exterior. He explained that when he bought the house, he was worried about the property's value, about the standards. He thought if something wasn't up to code, it might hurt his investment. I told him that I got it, but calling the city without talking to me first felt wrong. Caleb agreed. "I guess I wanted to prove I had control over my surroundings," he said. "I didn't want to feel like the outsider." And that, right there, was the lesson. It wasn't about the shed or the patio. It was about control, about fearing the loss of status, of being caught off guard in a place where you thought you had everything in order. It was about wanting to feel safe in your territory, even when it meant stepping on someone else. Months later, winter rolled in. The snow flattened everything, blurred the lines. From my kitchen window, I couldn't tell where his yard ended and mine began. Caleb and I still weren't friends, but that awkward truce, handing over coffee mugs in the driveway, was enough to leave things in the past. So, I'll leave you with this. Was I wrong for staying silent when the inspector looked into Caleb's yard? Should I have warned him beforehand, even though he tried to get my shed torn down? And Caleb, was he wrong for caring about standards and property values, or did he just go about it the wrong way? Neighborhoods are strange places. We share fences, but not always trust. We live close, but sometimes feel worlds apart. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where does responsibility really begin? And if nothing else, maybe this story is a reminder. Before you call an office, maybe knock on a door first. Because inspections don't stop at one fence line, and neither do consequences.